Okay, guys, I'm going to do a short reading for Rihanna, as requested. And I can't help to notice that Rihanna has Aries rising, which is very noticeable with her aggressive attitude sometimes and her blunt ways of saying things and confronting things. And she's pretty much of a warlike person, if you really think about it. And yes, she is a Pisces. She was born with the sun in Pisces and 1 degree Pisces, cusping Aquarius. But yeah, she does have that flair of Aries fire, She also has an innocence to her that when you look at her, she's kind of like a little child. Have you ever seen an Aries person when they're kids or when they're growing up, and even when they're adults? Sometimes they have like this innocence within them and they just totally react quickly, which, by the way, speaking of that, she's got the moon also in Aries, and the moon has to do with reactions. And she's got an Aries, and people with moon in Aries, they react to things without thinking. They speak without thinking. So she could even get more flares than the usual Aries riser. I can't help to notice also that next to the moon, she has Venus right in her ascendant, about 2 degrees away from her ascendant, which is pretty much a conjunction, but it falls within the 12th house, cusping the first house. And usually people who have Venus there, in the first house, like I've mentioned in other readings, I've mentioned this in the Angelina Jolie reading I did many years ago. I mentioned this in the Selena Gomez video where she also has her Venus right smack in her ascendant, conjunct her ascendant, that people who have the Venus rising have very charming personalities and they're very much liked by the public. And even though Rihanna, even though Rihanna has a lot of flares in her reactions to people, like she's got like some feisty attitude, it's the moon is conjuncting her Venus, so her reactions are actually very liked by people. Okay, the way she reacts, the way she gives feedback to people who try to take advantage of her, and the way she acts back defending herself, actually is attractive to people because the Venus is conjunct her moon. Now in her first house she has Jupiter, so first house has to do with the ego, and when you got Jupiter there, it expands your ego. Okay, it makes you a little bit egotistical, even with the transits. Whenever you have a transit Jupiter in the first house, you are very optimistic about yourself, very confident and overly confident. And we can see that in Rihanna when she wears her clothing, the way she acts. She's extremely overly confident. Now Rihanna has her North Node in the 12th house in Pisces, and the 12th house has to do with illnesses, hidden stuff, occult matters, dreaming, anything with Neptune and Pisces. Okay, and that's where she's heading to, well, in this lifetime, the North Node. Very secretive life. Maybe after she's done with being a star in this lifetime, she's just gonna go and seclude herself, in the last years of her life. Pretty much half of her life will end up, secluded or in isolation, or just not as famous. Her sun is in the 11th house of social networks, of the future, of dreams, of society. So she's very much shining in that area. She's very much a queen of the social network, of being seen, of parties, of friends and people. She's a very feisty person, very outgoing personality, although Pisces could be shy. But she's very much outgoing. She's got Mercury retrograde in Aquarius also there in the 11th house. And sometimes she could be very misunderstood. When you got Mercury retrograde, your words don't come out like you want them to. Okay, so she might be misunderstood within the social media network realm. But she's very boisterous. She does voice her opinion in regards to how she feels throughout the networks. And she's very, again, confident with that Jupiter in the first house. Now, I can't help to notice the stellium that she's got in the 9th house she's got Neptune, Saturn, and she's got Uranus. And she also has Mars conjunct almost Uranus. They're almost conjunct, but you know which ones are conjunct? She's got Saturn and Uranus conjunct exactly 0 degrees Capricorn. Now, the 9th house has to do with mysticism, religion, beliefs, and schooling. And maybe there's difficulty for her to learn and to observe knowledge. And this is probably one of her karmic depths this lifetime to be able to absorb knowledge and apply it and construct it and build it, because Saturn has to do with building. So for her, maybe learning is very, very hard for her. She also has Neptune there, and maybe she's pretty much really good with associating in classrooms and also dreaming and exploring esoteric motives when it comes to religion. She's got Mars in Sagittarius, last degree Sagittarius, meaning she doesn't hold back. When she's talking about the truth, she will go all the way. And Mars in Sagittarius could also pertain to temper flares. And with Uranus there, this is the picture that comes to mind for me is when she had that incident with Chris Brown. It was snappy, So I could just see how that Uranus and Mars work together there. In the 7th house, her relationships are intense, as she's got Pluto, 12 degrees Scorpio. So she's very intense with relationships, very sexual, with partners. Now, when it comes to aspects in Rihanna, I couldn't help to notice that her Venus in her 1st house, or shall I say the 12th house, because it's kind of cusping the 1st and 12th. Venus 12 degrees Aries is actually sextiling Mercury in 13 degrees Aquarius. And her spunk in her social media actually makes her attractive. Okay. Now, I wanted to mention that that 13 degrees Mercury in the 11th house is squaring Pluto 12 degrees in Scorpio in the 7th house. So there's conflict there. Whatever she says in social media could backfire her in her partnerships, in her personal relationship with other people, in romantic marriages, a business, could also affect business partners. So she's got to pretty much watch out what she says, in the 11th house of social networks, because it could backfire, and in her 7th house of partnership with Pluto there, and vice versa. Now, Rihanna has a sun sextiling Saturn and Uranus. So the social media for her actually makes her look smarter and appear wiser and appear more likable when it comes to the 9th house, okay? So maybe she's having a lot of difficulty in the 9th house, but regardless, she is still represented as a smart girl that reads books, okay, and actually has a very intellectual side to her. Now, Rihanna doesn't have too many aspects like other people do, but she does have a lot of stelliums, like I mentioned before. So I want to get back to the placements, and I noticed that she has Mars, the bad boy, in the 9th house. So she's very much attracted to guys that, have knowledge, guys that show some sort of wisdom, guys with bad tempers, okay, guys who are very blunt with their moves and love their freedoms, because Sagittarius has to do with freedom, no commitment, just independence. And she's kind of attracted to those kind of guys. So she really stay away from those kind of guys. The beneficial man in her life would be someone who would cater to her physically, as her Jupiter's in her 1st house where Aries is at. So it's pretty much a man that would put her on a pedestal and just nourish her ego. Anybody who has Jupiter in the 1st house needs their egos to be, pretty nourished. Someone who's dedicated to them. And she would really benefit if she would get a guy that's a go-getter. Someone that will chase her, okay? Not someone that's going to hide from her or run away from her because he needs his independence. No, she needs an Aries man. Now, as far as Venus again, Venus is in the 12th house, like partially in the 1st house, cusping. And she's also attractive, and she loves the occult. Okay, she likes the hidden, and she's also probably attractive to men with hidden agendas, mysterious guys, kind of dudes, guys also that are very assertive, but they have like certain mystery to them, because the 12th house has to do with mystery, has to do with hidden. And she also feels comfortable in the background, because the moon in the 12th house signifies, it's also in the hidden in the 12th house. So the moon signifies comfort, where you're comfortable at in your chart. And she's pretty much comfortable in the 12th house. She's very much of a homey girl. She would do good in isolated places. She's very comfortable in a studio where it's hidden, and get to produce music. That's where she's the most comfortable, where she could be herself. Now, as far as transits, Saturn just finished crossing over her natal Saturn, which indicates that she just went through a Saturn return, and she's 30 years old, so she's kind of recovering from her Saturn return. And now Saturn going on to her 10th house signifies that she's going to have to restructure her career and her reputation. She's going to have to rebuild it. All right, once Saturn crosses halfway through Capricorn, she's going to have to start rebuilding her reputation, coming out with a new image, okay? Now, Jupiter is currently transiting her 7th house of partnership, so she needs to take advantage of the opportunity she gets meeting other people that she would be interested in, partnerships, marriages, business partnerships, relationships. Once Jupiter goes midway through Scorpio, it's going to be in her 8th house. So when you have Jupiter transiting your 8th house, it could be rather busy. You're going to have to be dealing with other people's problems, and you might be conjoining a business with someone, and you might be working with somebody else, okay, for a whole year, because it takes Jupiter a whole year to transit each house. Now, Mars is currently transiting her 10th house of career, and it's going to be retrograde there till August 27th of 2018. And she might be frustrated with her career and her reputation. And, because Mars brings frustrations when he's retrograde. And it could also create issues, in career. She could probably be fighting with another superstar or another person that's in the business too. So she's got to watch out for that. Venus is currently transiting her 5th house in Leo. And, once it's halfway through Leo, it'll be in her 5th house. But currently it's in her 4th house. So when there's activity in the 4th house, you're kind of laid back. You kind of want to be home. You kind of want to be comfortable, because the 4th house ruled by the moon is ruled by Cancer. And but once it reaches her 5th house, she's probably going to start creating new songs, new albums, put more enthusiasm into that house once you got Venus in there. Also, the Sun is currently transiting her 4th house. So once it goes into her 5th house, it'll activate that house. So she's going to be very, very creative once the Sun goes into her 5th house. Now let's talk eclipse with Rihanna, because there's going to be a Cancer eclipse this month, and it's going to happen in her 4th house. Okay, 4th house of family, of privacy. So maybe there's going to be something new, happening in her family. But then we also have a solar eclipse in Leo in August. So that could be the birth of a new album, a creation of something. Okay, because her 5th house has to do with creation. It's in Leo. However, the lunar eclipse, in Aquarius is going to end something in social media for her. It's going to end something with friends, with associates. There's going to be an ending for her in doing something, okay? Maybe the way people see her in social media, but something's going to end for her there, okay? Maybe her popularity might go down a little bit, okay? It'll be a little bit more of a quiet time for her. So that's for the next 6 months. And, eclipses last 6 months. Their energies last 6 months. As for Venus, will go retrograde by November or around October. Venus will be going retrograde. And it's going to happen in her 7th house of relationships. Okay. So that means that maybe old lovers that she's been associated with might come back to her life during that Venus retrograde. So you're going to have to be watching out for that. It's going to be like drama in her love life by that time. Now, Mercury is going to go currently retrograde, between her 4th and 5th house. So she's going to be reevaluating what kind of tracks she's going to release. What is her album really going to be about? She's just going to recreate herself pretty much, okay, once with this Mercury retrograde. And I wanted to mention that also I noticed that Jupiter is pretty much conjunct to her natal Pluto in the 7th house, which is making her very much intense. It's intensifying the intensity of Pluto in the 7th house. So maybe currently there could be something hidden, dramatic, behind her mind in regards to partnerships with this transit of Jupiter in the 7th house, conjuncting her in intense Pluto there. So there might be some relationship issues that are pretty much hidden and are secret. Nobody knows about. Okay, and maybe this could be channeled to her album in the 5th house. Now, Uranus is currently transiting her 1st house, and it's been transiting her 1st house for a while now, for a couple of years, because she does have Aries in the 1st house. So that means that Uranus has been there for quite a while. So she has been channeling this Uranus impulsive, unexpected reaction kind of energy, towards her. And there's no change to it for a while. Okay, there's not going to be a change till Uranus is halfway through Taurus. It's going to stay in her 1st house. So her impulsive behavior is not going to calm down, not until it moves to the 2nd house, which then has to do with possessions and values, and maybe she'll change her values. Maybe she'll be a completely different person because her values will change once Uranus goes into the 2nd house. Okay, so yeah, this is the transits and the natal placements and aspects for Rihanna. And if you would like me to take a look at your chart, then look at the information on the bottom of this video and hit me up with an email, and I'll get started with your chart. Hey guys, check out my music channel where I write my own music, sing and play piano. Make sure to subscribe.